The Mothman Prophecies is a 2002 American horror film directed by Mark Pellington and stars Richard Gere and Laura Linney. Real solid cast here. It's even got a good performance from the always reliable Will Patton. What makes this movie different from other cryptid movies is that it's based on the 1975 book of the same name. So the movie is, as far as I know, it's pretty accurate when it comes to actual accounts and like sightings around West Virginia from the year 1966 to 1967. I haven't read the book, although I'd really like to. And the movie takes place in current times, by the way. So yeah, I mean, if you want a monster movie, you know, like a cryptid monster movie, this really isn't it. I would say this is a very grounded story, although at times it does feel like an X-Files episode. It's not at all a movie I've seen too many people talk about over the years, but I saw it back in 2002, and it was kind of like a gateway horror film for me at the time. I didn't really go full horror for like another year or two. So watching it recently for the first time in probably close to 20 years, I still really liked it. And with the exception of a little bit of bad, 2002 CGI, I think it holds up pretty well. So I see sometimes people, talking about cozy horror movies, or what movies, have that cozy vibe for them. And this is kind of that for me for a few reasons. One being the fact that this is like a fairly atmospheric movie, and the majority of it is sort of laid back. It's not a particularly loud movie. I mean, Richard Gere is the lead, and he just kind of has that typical Richard Gere laid-back vibe. He whispers and mumbles through most of it. And I also love a movie where most of the scenes take place at night. This has that going on. Plus lots of rain and fog and even snow, which is a huge added bonus for me. Not the snow. I don't like snow. The rain and fog and stuff. Awesome. So a reporter named John Klein, played by Gere, has his world rocked pretty fucking hard one day when his wife dies from injuries following a fairly minor car crash. She hits her head. So it all happened quick, but something weird happened that night. Something not quite right. So things get even more weird 2 years later when he's driving late at night for work. When his car just randomly shuts down, just kind of stops working. And he has to walk to the nearest house for help since he's out in the boonies. And not only is he somehow hundreds of miles, further than he rightfully should be at that time, but he's met at gunpoint by the owner of the house. Played by Will Patton, I should add. A dude that typically has small roles, but I don't think I've ever seen him in a lead or anything, but he always ends up adding a little bit of something to the movie. So obviously, John's pretty shocked and freaked out at, having a gun in his face, but he's even more shocked when he's told that for 3 straight nights he's been showing up at the same exact time asking to use the phone. It's a pretty awesome, chilling scene just due to the effective storytelling and great acting by Will Patton, Richard Gere, and the police officer that shows up, played by Laura Linney. Who's another actress that is consistently great. I love her, and I love her as Officer Connie Mills. And I also really love the chemistry between her and Richard Gere. Connie takes an immediate liking to John, and she's just a great fleshed out character. She's just a small town cop, and but she looks after her people, and they trust her. And you just believe it, like any well written character should be. I just love how she is. You can tell that she's a police officer, not for, the reasons that some people become cops, but she's one of the people that became a cop to help people. And yeah, I just love this character. She's a cop that lets her, empathy guide her, and I think she sympathizes with John, after she finds out what he's been through and all that. They do kind of have a little bit of a Mulder and Scully thing going on as they investigate, other people that experienced odd things like John did in the West Virginia area. And I don't know if it really matters, but I really liked how they're just friends. They just become instant friends. And the writers, didn't try to shoehorn in like a generic romance angle like most movies did back in 2002. So yeah, I just appreciated that. It's different. It stood out. So anyways, if you aren't a big cryptid person like myself, the supernatural being we call Mothman has been described as like a tall winged flying, very obviously not human type creature. Like a lot of cryptids, not necessarily malevolent or at least people are kind of torn between the idea of it being either a bringer of doom, or something just trying to warn us of like an impending doom. So this movie kind of plays around with both ideas and kind of, I think, kind of lets you draw your own conclusion. Although it does paint the Mothman entity as more of, I don't know, in my opinion, more evil than I think the book did. But again, it plays around with both of those, kind of both those ideas, and lets you more or less draw your own conclusion. I don't know, as a character or whatever, you rarely see the Mothman, which I think it works out in it, to its benefit. In fact, you never really see it in its full form, so you don't really know completely what it looks like. You see shadows and silhouettes and stuff like that, and that might sound disappointing to you, but again, I just think this was the right choice, because this just is not a monster movie. But despite all that, there are a number of atmospheric, creep outs in a movie with no blood or jump scares. With a good story, good writing, and good directing, it's kind of crazy how much more you can do with less. It's not a perfect movie, but I really, I think all I don't really like about it is maybe some of the dated visual effects and editing techniques. Other than that, it often looks really good, I think, with some great shots. I love all the darkness and shadows and overall look of this movie. Honestly, I think it's just dated looking enough to trigger a little early 2000s nostalgia, but not really any more than that. So, I don't know. I'm giving the Mothman Prophecies 3 out of 4 stars, and I highly recommend it. If anything I said, sounds at all interesting to you, definitely check it out. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you at the multiplex. Subscribe right now, please.